And we are live for episode 12 of Off the Wall Baseball, or episode 13 if you technically count the home run derby and the trade deadline episodes. My name is Brandon Ellis. I'm the host as always here. Got my man Khris. I did finally got rid of the the beard. It's been growing forever. Got rid of it yesterday. Feel a little bit better with this last little bit of heat here over the next month probably. But hey, it is what it is. Khris, how you been, man?
Been okay. Tired. Been working. A new event came to Boston this month for anime.
Yeah.
The Gundam based anime has come to Boston for its world tour. I'm working that, so it's been a lot of long hours and loading things in and out, getting everything ready. It's a great fan base. It's been fun, but it's tiring for sure, especially in the heat.
Yeah. I bet with that. So, you might hear my fan if that's the case. I just don't have really great AC right now. So I have my fan for humid control. So probably be on the little shorter end, including Joshua Baez's debut. We have to get into that things first here. Then we got the death of Tommy John, the pioneer of Tommy John surgery. Speaking of Tommy John, Hunter Green had the Tommy John earlier this week too. I forgot to mention that. We kind of have to talk about that too. We'll talk about that when we get to the Tommy John stuff. The AL wild card it's gotten crazy. I think 4 or 5 teams are tied with or within one game of each of that final wild card slot, including Baltimore. I think they're technically tied right now at 61-63 for that last spot with Texas, I think it is. And then talk about the Dodgers. Lost another one today to the Brewers. And also got to, talk about Edwin Diaz and struggles overall. So I guess the historic debut of Mr. Baez, start positive and go downhill from there. First pitch, home run. He first pitch he's ever seen in MLB. He hits it out center field and went Wrigley. The wind was blowing out yesterday, but still, they hit it out dead center. Your first at bat there at Wrigley Field is crazy. The second home run was, and then the third one was right field. Not deep right field, but like kind of right center. For Baez. Your thoughts on his performance yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's super cool to see. Obviously, the first player in MLB history to do that on their debut game, which is awesome. What all you just mentioned, there was one to each part of the field, right? He wasn't just like dead pull and it was barely making over. You got one to dead center, one to left, one to right, so that would pretty cool to see him using all parts of the field. I mean, we've seen this before with Cardinals rookies, right? Coming up and starting pretty hot. Obviously not anything like this because, this is a history-making performance, but in general, I think it's either third or the fourth rookie this year for the Cardinals to hit a home run on their debut game. I think it might be the fourth. But either way, so they've had a lot of hot starts out of their rookies. And then obviously today he went 0 for 5, so cooled off a little bit. We'll see what happens for him moving forward. But no matter what else happens, you can't take away from him, history. And it's always fun to break history, especially against your number one rivals in their ballpark. I mean, there's some history there too. So that's definitely cool for him. And I love the energy that the team brought for him and stuff, So hopefully you can turn that into a solid career moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you there. He did go over 5 today in the Cardinals 11-4 win in his follow-up, but that's to be expected because it's hard it's baseball. I think it's the hardest sport overall of the big four. to to be consistent at, because hitting the baseball is the hardest thing, especially hitting 9,500 consistently. So and the luck of the draw sometimes. Look at Gunner's first hit today. I mean, Valdez called it, turned the double play on a ripped liner to right field. Like, it is the luck of the draw sometimes. Now I will be getting to Baltimore here soon in the AL wildcard race, because I just found out some interesting information on that wildcard race after the 10-2 win today for the O's. So we'll be getting into that shortly. But back to Baez. I think Baez is going to be him and Jordan Walker. That duo in the outfield is going to be a solid duo. Might be forcing Walker to be DHing. Maybe. I think that's what I saw. Baez was playing left more and more as well. So that's an interesting thing. And I think the Cardinals extended their lead in the division because over the Cubs. No, the Brewers had the lead in the division. I don't know. Oh, there's the Cardinals. They're 63-61 with that win today. And I'm just going to click on that real quick. Today's game and look at the lineup real quick, because so they had Baez and left and Church in center. So I think both of those two, Walker and Baez, has Walker, the home run derby champ, and Baez, who can easily be in a home run derby next year if he's like Walker. Transitions well, and his power can transition and everything like that. That'd be interesting to see if Walker comes back and defends his title, and if Baez gets enough home runs to qualify for the derby. If those two go at it, that'd be a fun little competition there. But 0-for-5 for the kid today. He was replaced later in the game for defensive purposes. So by Pereira. So we'll see what happens with Baez. I mean, I think it's going to be a situation where he's going to be good in some days, but I think like the power is always going to be there. It's just going to be consistency with contact. Your thoughts on the Cubs after this series against the Cardinals this weekend, before we get to Tommy John?
Yeah, I mean, every team's going to have their ups and downs. You certainly don't love what the Cubs have done here, especially, with St. Louis, sort of out of it, I mean, at the time, felt like should be mostly out of it, and the Cubs should be a much better team, but they've lost back-to-back to the Cardinals now, and they're falling further behind Milwaukee, which is not where you want to be. I mean, they're still solidly in the wild card, of course, so, and I think they'll hold on to that. They've got a pretty good lead there, but if they want to truly be contenders against teams like the Dodgers, the Braves, the Brewers, they have to be consistent against some of these worse teams, where the Cardinals really, I mean, they're 3 games out of it now. We're 4 or 5 games out of it going into the series, and just not, you've got to close the door on those types of teams if you want to, make it far in the playoff picture, But again, it is one series, and the Cubs overall in the last 10 have been 6-4, so not terrible, 6-2 before these last 2, so I can't, everybody's going to have bad series, but they certainly, especially on the pitching side, they need to make sure they figure out their pitching, which has always been the question for them. It's why they made some of the moves they made, at the trade deadline. And they need to work that out sooner than later if they truly want to contend in the NL.
Yeah, because that's the thing too. And PCA has to hit a little bit better than he did today. I mean, 1-for-5. The one hit was a home run. The 3 strikeouts, it's not going to cut it for a guy who I'm not sure because you've heard Ohtani's thrown bullpen, starting to throw bullpen. He might be back pitching sooner than we thought. It might be a situation where he throws a couple more bullpen sessions. He comes back sooner. He makes a NL MVP race again. We'll see what happens. There's a big series coming up for the Cubs, the White Sox. Big series. There's a big the first time that North Side, South Side, Chicago, series is big in a long time. Like has really deep, huge playoff implications for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, the White Sox are still technically one of the division leaders, but it is getting
Yeah.
dicey with the with the Guardians right behind them. So even though the Guardians are 5.5 back and the Tigers are 5.5 back, um,
Mm-hmm.
Chicago needs to win as many of those games they can against the Cubs and to prove themselves. So we'll see what happens with the White Sox Cubs starting them. I think that starts tomorrow, from what I saw. So that'll be interesting. All right, let's get to Tommy John. He passed away. I think it was no cause of death was revealed. I don't think for the Tommy John death. I mean, he was a great pitcher for the New York Yankees for a long time. But I think his biggest, his biggest thing was the Tommy John surgery for UCL. That was probably will be his biggest contribution in the game of baseball. Even though he's, like I said, one of the great Yankee pitchers in the like in the you know um, I think late '60s. I think he started playing, but starting playing. Don't quote me on that. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But he was one of the greats. But yeah, he died in Florida this afternoon. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to see what the medical side of it was. I mean, a 4-time All-Star in the modern game, made his debut with Cleveland in 1963, and he threw his final pitch in New York when he was 46. So,
Mm-hmm.
so he had a long career. Um, your thoughts, Chris, on the late Tommy John?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, the thing he's gonna be most remembered for, of course, is obviously the surgery, right? Because
Yeah,
it's associated with him, and really, you know, is one of the greatest, you know, not even directly for him, but just obviously, but it is one of the greatest advancements for medicine in the world of baseball, specifically. What they're able to do and sort of the impact that had. But him as a person in general and him as a player, he was obviously he's well regarded as a great person. He was clearly had a very strong, exceptional career. He was a trailblazer for that surgery. Just being willing to sort of pilot something that really had never been done before. Obviously is amazing. But in in general, it's always a sad day when you lose somebody that is means so much, I guess, to the league and in the history of the league, and so he'll definitely be missed. It's a big loss, and hopefully, his legacy continues on even as he's now passed away.
yeah. With the Tommy John surgery itself, it's
Hmm.
it's one of those like when you hear it, it's like, oh, your pitcher's out for the year, but at least maybe they can get better. But sometimes they've had multiple, like
Hmm.
DeGrom. So yeah, rest in peace to Tommy John. Speaking of Tommy John surgery, Hunter Green earlier this week underwent the Tommy John surgery and is out for the entire 2027 season. Um, assuming we do get baseball in 27. As a fan base, as a league, you won't see Hunter Green at all, which sucks for the Reds because
Yeah.
it just he's one of the best young pitchers when fully healthy. He wasn't great this year because of the first surgery that removed some bone spurs, I think it was, and then
Mhm.
he's still kind of like iffy, and then they decided to go ahead and get the Tommy John
Mhm.
um, for him, and just rest for the next basically 12 to 18 months there. So
Mhm.
we'll see Hunter Green in 28 probably. and hopefully.
And that's always been the concern with him, right? I mean, that's sort of why we both kind of said if the Reds were going to move anybody, they should move on him, pull the trigger because, his injury history and the potential for Tommy John surgery coming up, and clearly that now is happening, and that's obviously
probably why he didn't get moved at the deadline either. That's probably why, because I think they were planning on doing the surgery here. So
absolutely. And then obviously you worry about that with some of the younger kids coming up too, besides Hunter Green. You see Miz, throwing as hard and as frequently as he is. You just can't help but immediately jump to what it's going to look like 2 or 3 years down the road, Yeah.
That's the thing with Miz. And you see with Skeens' velocity too, dropping. Ever since the beginning of the year, it's dropped. Like, he hasn't had a pitch over 98 in the last few starts. And
the velocity's dropped, the movement's dropped as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Skeens. I don't know if you've seen the picture that was a viral with him and Miss Dunn on the beaches. It doesn't seem like he's the peak shape that he was the first 2 years. And that kind of, is it a concern? Probably. I think it's a concern. If I were Pittsburgh, I would have him, less innings. I know the competitor doesn't like that, but Skeens, but he's just not looking great right now either. So I don't know if it's an issue with his injury, which I was always thinking his warm-up, right? His warm-up that he does before games, throwing the football, doing the water thing. I thought I was going to prevent him from having the injuries and reduce velocity. I think right now I don't know if it's the warm-up that caused it or something happened that we don't know about. But I mean, his velocity's down, and he's getting rocked more and more. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with Skeens the rest of the year too, if he's not the next name on that, on that Tommy John list. We'll see. I hope that's not the case. I hope it's just something minor that he can just rest in the offseason. Once we get to the offseason, and then maybe they just rest him before, like, they're out of it now. They're not going to make the playoffs. They might as well just reduce his innings down the stretch here.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
Speaking of playoff races, let's talk about both wildcard races as of Sunday afternoon play. Right now, the Baltimore Orioles hold the sole possession of the last wildcard spot for the first time since April 13th. So all three wildcard teams are from the AL East, with the Rays still leading the division after the Orioles essentially clinched the series. There's one more game against the Rays tomorrow for the sweep, the series sweep. Your thoughts on? I mean, I'm going to say my thoughts. I'll let you go first with your thoughts on the AL wildcard. I have plenty of thoughts on the Orioles.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's equally interesting to me, I mean, it just shows you how utterly mediocre the AL, that last spot, really is. I mean, Baltimore has won 3 in a row. Credit to y'all for that. And over the last 10 years, still only 5-5. You haven't gone on a major winning streak or super crazy tear, but you have slid into that spot because of the fact that it seems like no team really wants that spot. All it took Baltimore was completely selling off, and then all of a sudden you're there. I mean, who would have thought? But obviously there's still a long way to go. It's also a testament for worse, that last spot is officially, as of right now, a team that's below 500. Right, the concern was for a while that the AL would have a team that's below 500 make the playoffs, and as of right now, that would be the case. Obviously, things can change, but potentially we're looking at even 2 teams that could end up below 500 by the end of it. Because Houston winning their division, they're only 2 games over 500 themselves, and the next closest team is Texas, who's below 500. So depending on what goes on there, we could end up.
That's who the O's took the spot from, because their loss kind of put them a half game back of Baltimore.
Yep, exactly. So Texas is battling for that spot as well. Toronto is suddenly, in there. Only a game back. Sort of came out of nowhere for that. And then you've got, Cleveland, Detroit, and even Minnesota. All of them are within 1.5 games. That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Yep.
6 teams reasonably, all within a game and a half of that final spot. That's crazy. And none of them are particularly good teams. They're all, like I said, all below 500. So it'll be interesting to see. It makes it interesting for fans of those teams down the stretch. As far as they've all have something to watch, even if their team hasn't been great. And really, even Seattle. Even Seattle, 3 games out. They've really been struggling. They've sort of.
I just don't think Seattle's got it this year. Kyle Raleigh's had one of the worst stretches.
Exactly.
One of the worst seasons after close MVP season I've seen in a long time.
Absolutely. And so, technically, mathematically, they're still in it, but realistically, it seems like they've sunk out of it. But regardless, six teams at least, all below 500 competing. So for the fan bases, that's good because you've got something to watch down the stretch the last month and a half, and that's good for baseball viewership. On the flip side, is that good for quality of baseball? Do you want 6 under 500 teams all competing for a final spot, or a final 2 spots if something
I can tell you this.
I
can tell you this. If the O's get that last spot, right now it'd be the White Sox in that 3rd wild card, right, in the AL. I think that's an interesting series between the O's and the White Sox. I really do.
No, it actually would be Houston. It'd be Houston.
Oh, right. It would be Houston.
It'd be Houston. The White Sox would have the bye. And then it'd be Houston versus Baltimore and New York versus Boston.
Which would be an interesting. Like I said, Houston the O's would be interesting too. If somehow Houston gets hot and the White Sox fall, I think that's a better matchup for Baltimore is the White Sox probably, just because the youth on both sides there. Obviously Houston has the playoff experience with like Altuve and Alvarez and some of the other guys on that team's history. They have experience in the playoffs and making runs and winning World Series, and while Baltimore doesn't. So if you're a Baltimore fan like myself, you'd rather face the other team that doesn't have playoff experience. Well, Baltimore has some with like the 23 and 24 teams, but most of that team's gone other than Gunnar and maybe a few other guys that were hung over there, but mostly Gunners, and Pete has some playoff experience. That don't get me wrong with the Mets, and then a few other guys I think have some playoff experience. But I think mostly it's the young guys right now for Baltimore, which I like what they're doing in this Rays series. I just wish they can stay consistent like that Rays series. Cam Sanders, coming up from AAA before the Minnesota series and come on and get saves in the first 2 games of the Rays series, especially the one pitch, the one out after Cano was struggling on Friday night. Saturday night, getting out of that jam in the bottom of the 10th, pressed by Sanders. I think if we can get Felix Bautista back in September, like they're thinking or hoping, I think that bullpen with Sanders and Bautista and Cano, that 7, 8, 9 right there, that rivals anybody in the AL, bullpen wise. So that'll be interesting. If Bautista lives up, because he hasn't pitched in really over 2 years, really. So it would take him some time, but we'll see what happens with that if he does come back. Gunnar finally getting hot at times. He still has like his hot streak. Like you think he's getting back, but then the next day he's like 0 for 2, 0 for 3 or something like that. But he had like a 4 for 4 game, and like he seems like he's finding better contact. Jackson Holiday's hitting lefties better. this season. So we'll see. I mean, that's the thing. We'll see if Baltimore can carry its momentum, get the win, get the sweep. Then they play the Yankees. They got a big homestand. Yankees then Rays again. Over the after this Monday's game against the Rays. So it's going to be an important stretch this week for Baltimore to see if they can keep up. Keep that spot, because that's the thing. Texas has got they're going to fight for the division, so they have every priority to try to win. The two teams like Cleveland and Detroit are still in it.
They are.
So you still got to think about them. You got to think about Minnesota too, who you actually lost that series earlier this week in Minnesota, which made me, that Minnesota series, to get into that series, made me think, okay, maybe Baltimore doesn't have it. This season. And this Rays series really changed my it doesn't change my mind, because I still think at the end of the day, I just think trading Adley away. Maybe if we get Basilio back, because Basilio is still not back yet. If we get Samuel back, I think maybe I might change my mind again. Now there was an interesting thing with Pete. He kind of got gimpy in the game Saturday night. Last night, his hit in the bottom of the 10th, I think it was. He got gimpy. He played the game today as DH. He didn't play first base. Kobe Mayo is the first baseman today. So we'll have to see if it's Kobe Mayo at first for a little while until Pete heals. It doesn't seem like Pete's not heading to the IL if he played DH today. So that's something. It is something to monitor, but I just don't know for sure how to monitor it if he was still able to DH. And everything. He was still pretty effective today too in the game today. Let's see what else is going on. I mean, Christian and Carson Strand, CES has been a great addition. That trade midway through the season to get from the Reds was a great trade. It was an underrated trade at the time because he's just a prospect. You never know when you're going to need him. Then Blaze goes out before All-Star game, and ever since then, the CES has taken over, and I think I wouldn't put Blaze back. I love Blaze, and I like what he was doing. I would keep the hot hand in CES right now and keep what you, because until you might play matchups here and there. You might have to play Blaze in left for Beavers at times. I guess especially against a lefty. That's something to think about too. But you still got O'Neill. O'Neill's been hitting a little bit better too, and so it's an interesting dynamic what the O's have done since post Adley trade, and everything like that. Hey, is it what I wanted when we came to the deadline? No, I kind of wanted to still have, our two-headed catching demon together for at least one more year. I get Adley wasn't going to resign in Baltimore. If that's the case, if he does resign with Boston, we know the answer. Obviously, that's what it was. That cost the trade. But looking on it, still being competitive in this AL wildcard race, and the fact of the matter of the haul that we got, which I think the final piece got added since the last of that deal. Their Vivas, I think. I think so. That's another good prospect. I guess it just depended on when Adley came back. That's what they were, what the level of prospect was going to be. I'm guessing. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, Adley's been okay, I think, in Boston so far. If I'm correct on that, Chris.
Yeah, he's been solid. He's doing typical, Adley things, I guess I would say, in that he's got a very good eye. As he gets on base.
Yep.
He finds ways to get on base. He hasn't been, crazy or anything. I don't think
he hasn't been the 2020. Yeah, he hasn't been the 2023 Adley yet.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what we've seen. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's been okay. I mean, he's only got one hit for us so far, but he has 5 walks, you
Yeah.
know. But also actually a surprising amount of strikeouts. He has 9 strikeouts so far. In
In
one
Boston.
or
Yeah.
5
Okay.
innings, so that is a decently high amount, So 1 hit, 5 walks, 9 strikeouts. And that 1 hit was a single. So
Yeah,
no,
that hustle single he had
yeah,
against the Blue Jays.
exactly. Yep.
So that's the thing with Adley. I mean, I think it's going to take him some time, and to get used to hitting there. I mean, most like last few games he's played has been on the road, so
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
uh,
Been on the road. He's also trying to now figure out an entirely new pitching staff.
Yep.
And I talked about it a little bit, why I was a little worried about, some of the moves they made and why I think they kept Connor Wong up with some consistency for that pitching staff because, the Red Sox have been struggling. We just lost today. That's our third straight series loss after
Yep.
winning, I think it was 9 straight series in a row, or maybe even
Yes.
10. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Right.
But we've lost 3 in a row. And a lot of that has been because of our pitching. Our
Yeah.
pitching outside of Toll and Sonny Gray has been pretty bad, truthfully, especially starting pitching. Our bullpen, we've had some injuries there as well. A couple guys have gone to the IL in Garrett Whitlock and Weissert, both sort of back end bullpen guys. We're waiting on Crochet still to come back, for that rotation. But our rotation outside of Gray and Toll, like I said, have been struggling, including Ranger Suarez. And so there has to be some question of, is some of that because of the switch to catcher? As great of a catcher as Adley is, because he's certainly a very good catcher. Sorry, I had a bug flying in my face.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
but he's great defensively, but he's still learning a pitching staff, and some of those changeovers could impact for a little while. And I guess we'd rather they work out the kinks now than potentially in the playoffs for sure,
Right.
But I definitely think there could be, between that and the fact that a lot of our pitchers are younger, and they're either coming back from injuries in the case of Suarez and Sandoval, or they're just younger pitchers in general, and Bennett, Toll has now officially broken his most innings pitched as well. So there's some concerns there, and the bullpen has been very heavily taxed during that winning streak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of that's coming back a little bit too, so there's a lot of things to work on for the Red Sox, and, having a brand new catcher on top of all that certainly can be a little complicated for them as well.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. One last little note of today's action is Noah Cameron from the Royals had a 1-hit shutout today against the Angels. Something to shout out there because pitching rare pitching complete games is rare nowadays because of how teams manage their rotations and use their bullpens more often now. So seeing something like that is still good to see in the game. I just want to shout out that because he just saw on the app he struck out Trout in the game, so it's a big moment for him. Also, we got the Little League World Series starting on Wednesday this week. So that is a big thing. We'll probably talk about some of it on this pod. I mean, just to see probably won't just talk about moments of it, not necessarily go full breakdown like we do MLB, but just the vibes of it, and all that stuff, especially with the MLB at Little League series that will be coming up shortly during the duration of the Little League World Series. So that would be a fun thing to do. We have to kind of talk about Field of Dreams with Schwarber. I forgot to put that on here. It was Schwarber's thing. 2 home run game on the Field of Dreams.
Yep, had a very nice game there.
Yeah, a very nice game there. Some of the guys walking out of the corn, the Hall of Famers and stuff like that. The presentation's still there. if y'all want to hear our thoughts on it, go back to last episode where we talked about like I don't think anything will top the mystique of that first game, but that came close. Like the game with the Twins and Phillies
It
because
was a good one. Yeah,
it was a good one.
It made. I mean, I could just say from a Red Sox fan's perspective, following the social media on it, a lot of Red Sox fans are sort of begging to get that game at some point,
Yeah,
which is interesting, So definitely there is still some hype around it, as well, which at least in my neck of the woods there has been, which is interesting.
yeah. It's
So,
hype. It can be hype because of playing in that in that stadium in Iowa.
yeah.
I mean, it's playing in the stadium that Field of Dreams is based on. Across from the house from the movie.
Definitely.
It's I can get that from fans' perspective. I just don't. My thing with the game itself is, and like we said last week, I just don't know like these teams, the random teams going to do it. It's like well, it can really wear it down. From time to time. So it just wear down the mystique of it, and you can get like clunkers, of the game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Netflix's presentation of it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I guess that will sell it maybe because Netflix has a pretty good.
I was gonna say Netflix has come a decent way for baseball presentations. I mean, I remember when I think it was Apple TV had the first ever streamed baseball game. I think right. That was like
they still have like Apple TV still has some games,
and that one was a little rough. But I do give Netflix credit. They've done a decent job with production, and it could have gone either way because Netflix has had some issues with their production of live events before for sure. So good on them for at least working out the kinks with this. They've been doing a pretty decent job with it.
Yeah, it's good to see them handle the home run derby the way they did, even though not many people watched it.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good presentation from Netflix overall. Mm-hmm. Even though we were watching it live, we couldn't have the audio obviously on the live here, but looking back on some of the clips and stuff like that, it was good to see like the presentation and the analysts they have, and Elle Duncan does a great job as the on-air host. Now she does rub people the wrong way sometimes, and that's I'm not getting into that pretty much because that's the politics side of what it is right now with the economy of politics. That's what makes Elle Duncan not very likable sometimes because she's good at her job, and I think that's the right call, and also that having Matty V is an advantage too. Like Matt Vasgersian calling a game 10 out of 10 times is going to be normally a good presentation. So, or 9 out of 10 times at least is going to be pretty good presentations because Matt Vasgersian is probably the best play-by-play in baseball right now. It's either him or Joe Davis. But I would say Matt Vasgersian ekes it out a little bit because Joe Davis does more stuff and Matt is just baseball. Davis also does NFL for Fox as well. And stuff like that. So he has to split his time. And when it comes October, though, Joe Davis is great. I love him doing World Series, him and Smoltzy. I love that. I love that pairing. I love that. Ever since Joe Buck went to ESPN for Monday Night Football with Aikman, I'm glad Joe Davis stepped up and be with John Smoltz because it's been a chef's kiss kind of duo calling World Series games. So that's good. Now, even though it's been Joe Davis's Dodgers, in the World Series the last couple of years,
certainly makes it a lot easier for him, right?
It makes it a little bit easier for Joe Davis, but I mean, it's just like it's. I don't know. It makes it easier, but also it makes it harder for him for not being because most of the team bias because the team biases can come in at times too.
For sure.
On a national broadcast like that, so. We'll see what happens this year if the Dodgers make it because they're in a slump right now, Chris. They are in the slump of all slumps.
And
They've got
semi-breaking news as well that just came in a couple minutes ago. Justin Wrobleski is officially going to the IL, but Roberts is claiming it should be short-lived and we're not concerned. And it sounds like it's potentially just up to give him a break because he's approaching his career high in innings.
and also too, yeah. So he's on the IL. He got the loss in yesterday's start. It was yesterday's start, right? Yeah, for them. So yeah, he's not been great either. But yeah, Wrobleski, who was made the All-Star team for the first time this year. I hope it's nothing too serious for the kid, but at the same time, it's like, do they really need Wrobleski to get going? I don't think he'll be in the rotation in October.
Not with the names they have,
Not with the names they have.
Catastrophic happens, and if something catastrophic happens, they probably have more issues than worrying about Wrobleski at that point.
Yeah. So let's look into this Dodgers last few games here. I think they lost 10 of 15. I saw that. Yeah. I think now it's 11 of the last 16. After the day. So that let's get that out of the way. They lost once again to the Brewers. That the Brewers are at getting closer and closer to clinching that wild card. And
definitely.
The 1 seed. That's what I meant to say. Not the wild card. They're getting closer and closer to clinching that 1 seed by the day. So now they moved up 3 games on that 1 seed over the Dodgers right now with the 3-game sweep. Essentially, they headed into it kind of tied.
Dodgers are now even behind the Braves at this point with their loss today, or a half game back right now.
And then, you know who lost the game today? Scooble.
Yeah.
Scooble was on the mound today, and he has not been good as a Dodger.
Yeah,
he has not been the same as a Dodger. That is something to keep an eye on too with that because he has not pitched well since he got traded to LA.
I mean, he only gave up 1 run, 1 earned run, 2 runs total, but he's given up some hits. 7 hits. So it's it's not on the surface not bad, but they need him to sort of be a stopper for them. You can't lose the games that he's pitching. For sure.
That's the thing is too, the bullpen issues. You know what I mean? It's like it's not great. It's not great with his bullpen issues. Let's see, the 2 starts he had. Let's see here. So he lost his first start against the Cubs, and then the Dodgers got the win. I don't think he got the win. I think it was a no decision for him against Kansas City. And then he got lost today.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's gone 0-2 in his 3 games with
LA.
There's a 3.18 ERA. He's given up 6 earned runs in those 3 games. So not terrible. 6 to 7 strikeouts. He's not going super deep. Two 6-inning games and a 5-inning game. So he hasn't been awful. But like you said, a lot of it too is the bullpen that hasn't helped, but he's still at the same time, like you said, he is an ace. He's a Cy Young Award winner, right? A potential, perennial Cy Young Award winner. He needs to be the guy that, is winning the game, stopping these losing streaks for the Dodgers. That's what they acquired him to be. And he hasn't been that. Yeah, he's been fine. Again, like I said, the surface numbers, if you just look at the numbers, it's a solid, solid pitching. A lot of teams would take those numbers, but he hasn't been the Cy Young candidate that they need him to be right now while all their other pitchers are injured and whatnot. He hasn't been that. And that's the issue.
Yeah. So, the thing is, too, when you look at Edwin Diaz, right? And we'll get to him. And I think he got the save over the week. One of the saves on earlier this weekend. And I think it was the Friday game against the Brewers. I think So I think he got the save Friday.
He did. I was shaking, but he did get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was shaky, but he got it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 7 saves on the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a bad, well, 31st and tied for 31st among closers. But
Mm-hmm.
he's still at a 10.66 ERA right now.
Yeah.
For one of the major acquisitions the Dodgers had for that bullpen,
Yeah.
to have a 10.66 ERA right now is not great. I don't know. I don't think he'll be in the mix in the playoffs if he keeps pitching like this.
I know. No, they can't. They can't. I mean, he obviously had his injury, so he's come back, and he's been pretty awful since he's come back. He wasn't good before he was injured, and he'd been even worse since he's come back,
Yep.
And I agree. If there is a flaw on this Dodgers team, it is that bullpen for sure.
Yep.
And he's a major contributor to that. And they can't, and the thing is, when the Red Sox popularized this in their 2018 run, right? Because that was the biggest flaw of that stacked Red Sox team, right? Was their bullpen. And so, what a lot of people end up cutting Alex Cora for being such a brilliant manager, he got some of that reputation was how he handled that bullpen in the playoffs, which
Yep.
was he essentially gave up on the bullpen and had it be his starters, right? On their bullpen days. He had his starters come in and be their closers, right? Chris Sale, I believe, was the one that got the final strikeout on Manny Machado to win that World Series. Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't their closers. It wasn't their bullpen. And it would, because of the depth of the Dodgers starting rotation, right? They can do something similar. They may put some of their starting pitchers in that bullpen and have them be the closer, because they have that depth and they don't have that lights out guy in that bullpen right now. And that's
who would be the first candidate? Roki Sasaki, who did last
year. I was about to say Roki Sasaki, who, by the way, has been pitching pretty darn well recently. He's finally started to figure out the MLB, and so he would be very interesting to see in that closer role, especially figuring it out,
Yeah, I mean, Roki Sasaki has been good this year. Other than the first few months, he's been good. And it'd be interesting if Roberts makes that same decision with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he did last year in the around the playoffs time, like in September, and be like, no, you know what, rookie, we need you in the bullpen. We need you to be what you were for us last year in October, because Edwin's not getting it done, something like that. Going to his interpreter and having his interpreter tell him that, probably the same one that's Shohei's interpreter. Not the we all know Imahara, not him. It's the new one, but obviously, I don't know if you've listened to that 30 for 30 pod on the Imahara stuff. That's really good stuff. I mean, it was a really good job at ESPN doing like breaking it down and everything like that, because like breaking down the whole situation of his gambling. I've been listening to it. My coworker, my boss, who is the chief, all he listens to in the car on the way to each job is podcasts. So he was like, "All right, we'll listen to the Shohei one," and we listened to it, and all 6 episodes. It's really fun. So anywhere you can get podcasts, I encourage y'all to listen to that, because that's a really good pod. Breaks down everything. Breaks down the whole relationship. Even though it's not really it wasn't really a relationship to begin with, but people thought it was like they thought they were really best friends and stuff like that. The way, but it was a weird situation. It's weird that Shohei let him control, his financials and stuff like that the way he did. Gave him the access to be able to steal his money, essentially. So, just listen to that when you get a chance. I recommend it. That's a really good pod. But going back to the overall Dodgers and their struggles, what would prevent them to win 3 straight? The bullpen or Mookie Betts' performance? What would more cost them the 3-peat?
I
think bullpen, but I think Mookie's got.
I think it would be the bullpen ultimately, because I think there's enough depth there. In that lineup, to hide Mookie Betts a little bit, and even defensively, I think overall there's enough there to sort of hide that. I don't think you can hide the bullpen in the playoffs. Well, you can by not having the bullpen pitch, like I just sort of outlined.
Yeah.
But otherwise you can't really hide the bullpen. And the pressure is even higher. In the bullpen, and all it takes is one missed pitch. To lose a game. From the bullpen, whereas I think there would have to be a lot more things going wrong for Mookie's performance to be the reason the Dodgers lose the series in the playoffs. That's my sort of take on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. But here's why I brought up Mookie specifically.
Mm-hmm.
He's having one of his worst seasons of his career up to this point.
Yes.
Last 7 days he's 7 for 23, which is not too shabby, but I would be concerned if they face Milwaukee in the playoffs because he's 2 for 23 in the 6 games played against the Brewers. This season so far. With only one RBI, 5 strikeouts. Only 2, like I said, 2 for 23. That's not good. Mookie in August thus far is 12 for 47. In August. And then if you look at it, like I said, if they face the Brewers, Mookie's going to struggle. Right now, he's been struggling against them all year.
Definitely.
So that's something to keep an eye on. For sure. I mean, let me look at also here too. Like he's projected to finish at let's see here, 104 hits at 439 at bats. Right now.
Yeah.
So
not great.
that's not great.
Definitely not great.
And that's the thing. Mookie's like, when he's great, it's like great Mookie when he was younger, he was a 300 hitter. Nowadays, I would think he would be a 280, 270 hitter when he's on it. Yeah. Right now, like 236 is his average this season. Yeah. Like it's not great. And it's not going to be consistent enough. Another one that's like kind of surprising when you look at it, it's Kyle Tucker, 232.
Yeah. No, I was going to say Tucker's had a pretty rough season this year. I mean, he's hit some home runs, but by and large, he hasn't been great for the Dodgers.
No, and that's the thing. And that was the big acquisition for them in the offseason.
Yeah.
That everyone was freaking out about. Was him. And I think the inconsistencies of guys behind Paez and Freeman and Ohtani, that might cost them. I mean, if Ohtani still hits what he's hitting and Freddie's still hitting what he's hitting, that's good.
Yeah.
Paez hitting, like having a good season, that's going to be good. But they need someone else to step up in this lineup, and I just don't know where it's going to come from.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, Edmund maybe, but he's inconsistent at times. Like it's just the matter of the timely hit for the Dodgers might cost them in a series against the Brewers. It might cost them a series against the Cubs. It might cost them a series against the Diamondbacks or Padres because whoever gets that last wild card spot between those two teams. Yeah. I don't know if it'll cost them against the Phillies because the Phillies hasn't suffered from the same thing this season when it comes to inconsistency from guys other than Schwarber and Harper.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they get to the World. Oh, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but a lot of teams have questions. It is very interesting to see this Dodgers lineup and see really behind Paez. I mean, Muncy's doing well for his age, for sure. He's got a heck of a lot of power, but really outside of behind Paez, there's really it's pretty barren back there. Which is not what you expect from a team like the Dodgers. And it does open the door for teams like Milwaukee who have played well against the Dodgers. Milwaukee needs to capitalize on some of these holes that the Dodgers are showing. And again, the Dodgers are going to get a little bit healthier. That's going to make a big difference, And in the end, if their starting pitching is as lights out as it can be, they don't have to do much on offense to win a series, right?
Yeah. That's something to think about too, because the Dodgers right now don't have Rushing or Will Smith right now at catcher.
Yeah, exactly.
That might make a little bit of a difference too.
Yeah, that could help a little bit for sure. definitely. You know, and you would hope that either Tucker or Betts bounces it back a little bit here, has, you know,
Yeah.
figures out something, you know. But yeah, I mean, they aren't having great years, you know, despite being this team that, you know, star-studded, like an all-star team unto itself, right? It hasn't quite panned out that way for them this year, despite, obviously, I mean, you can't complain about a 74-51 record at the end of the day. That's still a
Right.
fantastic record, you know,
Yeah.
but it's not the 120 win Dodgers that, you know, you would think, and it usually isn't. For what it's
No.
worth, in the regular season, it hasn't been. They figure
Right.
it out in the playoffs, especially recently, you know, the
Yes.
last couple of years. So we'll see if that trend continues. You know, they haven't been the overwhelming dominant team all year long the last couple of years, and yet once it became the playoffs, there was no way to stop them, you know. So we'll see what happens this year. You know, I still wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't pick against that rotation winning a short series, you know,
Yeah.
but you know, if there's an opening, Milwaukee has the opportunity to take it. The Braves, I would think, are the other team that have the opportunity to take it of the teams. And we talked about last week too, a potential wild card matchup against one of their in division rivals who sees them a lot in Arizona or San Diego could be interesting as well. You know.
Yeah. Here's something else too. Basilo had his, speaking of when I was mentioning him earlier,
Mm-hmm.
he had his one of his first stints today uh, on rehab for the
Yep.
Norfolk Tide.
Oh, there you
Had
go.
a 2-run double, 3 RBIs on the day. So
Nice.
so far, um, from 5 hours ago, I think he ended up with those. Let's see here. They won the game 9-8 for the Tide. I think he had. I think all it says here, he had that 2-run double in the first hit off 111.4 off the bat for Basayo. So yeah, so that's a good sign. If he's hitting AAA, now it's AAA, but if he's hitting like that when he gets back, that would be a good sign for Baltimore's chances moving forward. Just trying to make sure I didn't miss anything before we wrap up here, Chris.
Yeah, definitely.
I just want to make sure about that too, because yeah, that's huge. If Basalo's doing that in one of his first games on the rehab tour,
Mm-hmm.
that would be good. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think right now too. It's just
Yeah.
that's a funny tweet. Stop the count. Stop the count. That's a funny one. But yeah, with the Orioles, regards to Orioles, I'm trying to think what else is going on too. Yeah, I think we got everything that we need to talk about today.
I think
So go ahead and shout out your stuff, Chris, real quick, and I'll put up my ticker real quick on my stuff.
As always, at Christian B617 on pretty much all social medias, especially X and Instagram. You know, and I'm writing on over at Total Apex Entertainment, Total Apex Media. So feel free to check out totalapexentertainment.com, totalapexsports.com. Give some clicks to the writers. They're working really hard over there trying to pump out quality content. So make sure to support them as well and give them some clicks and views and read their stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, for me, you see it on the bottom there. Instagram at _BS32, X on 30BS. If you're here on TikTok, it's Ellis Highlight Reel. If it's YouTube, it's Ellis Highlight Reel. Facebook's Brandon Ellis as well. Obviously, I got my blog. I have ideas in the pipeline. I was going to write, sit down and write. I just, had a weekend of like having to get a bed for my mom because my mom's having surgery on her hip later this week on Wednesday. So we had to kind of get that kind of ready for her, and it was kind of a hectic Friday and Saturday. So that's why I didn't have my Friday show like I promised, because it was hectic on around that time I was going to record. So I will have that Friday show next week. I know I've been delaying it. I think this will be the time I settle down and do it this upcoming week. Because it's a big week. I'm gonna get maybe hop on the DMs and see if I can get one of the two local guys that I think would do it with me on. If they can't, I'll just do it by myself, obviously, if they're not available. But so keep an eye out for that. Also, my blog, like I said too, I was gonna write, like I said, it will be. I think I'm gonna have something in the pipeline come out tomorrow night after the basketball pod. I think I'm gonna sit down and write after the basketball pod. For a little while. So just look out for that. That'll be the first one. I'll post it on my YouTube post, community post, the link to it. I'll also post it on my Instagram and X and my Facebook and other places too. So if you keep an eye on that. Shout out Khris again for doing this with me. I know it's, taken away from potentially writing some more for Dusty and everything like that. But hey, I appreciate all the help I can get here. So that being said, this has been the Off the Wall Baseball from those Highlight Reel Productions. Peace out, everybody.